Good afternoon, and welcome to the large and unnecessary First Player Token podcast.
That's different. Usually it's good evening.
Arbitrary time zones.
It is.
Just coming up with them now. Just operating and whatever. I mean, this is probably one of the later podcasts we've recorded as well.
It is. This might be the latest one.
Yeah.
In terms of when we've recorded them.
Yeah, exactly. It might be the latest one if you're listening to this.
So you just like to be contrary.
Episodes are out. Yeah.
This is episode 14.
Yeah, it is. Episode 14.
Yeah, and this is probably going to be a shorter episode. I've just sort of like nipped home for a couple of days before I bugger off again.
You're not long in the house.
No.
After a long
just
journey away.
Not long got off the train. Yeah. Got off the train about, what, an hour and a half ago? Something like that, 2 hours ago.
Slithered onto the couch and started talking into a microphone.
That's it. It's my default position, Euan. This is where I like to be.
Slithered onto a couch.
Right, I'm Chris.
I'm Euan.
Yep, and there is no Pawel this week. He's decided that other things are too important, like sleeping or something like that. So that's the attitude you're going to have to put up with Pawel if he's going to be on this podcast.
Yeah, it'll be an intermittent segment.
His sense of loyalty is just it's non-existent. He's not a very loyal man. He tries to
live his life in some sort of way.
He's a terrible friend, in fact.
Well,
moving on from Pawel.
I think we've covered everything we need to at the top of the show.
Yeah.
So, without further ado,
we're going to start.
Let's just start.
Let's start. All
Let's
right.
just start out of the blue talking about some board games.
Aye. Well, I feel that you've been absent on the last the last episode you were here.
Yeah, but
you
I hadn't
much
really
input.
been playing anything.
So, I'll let you talk about these board games then.
I'll get straight into it then. Well, we're going sports themed today.
We're going sports.
We'll start off with Blood Bowl Team Manager.
Alright, okay, let's start with that.
They're both very Americanised in their way.
So this is a
fantasy good old flight Fantasy Flight licensed game.
One of their Games Workshop ones, which they're pretty good actually. And this is by Jay Little. This is designed by Jay Little. Whoever Jay Little is, but he's designed a pretty good game.
Yeah, no, he's done well. I've never played the Games Workshop full
I have once.
Blood Bowl game.
I think I was about 12.
Oh, yeah, I don't really know what's involved, but I imagine it's similar to what's going on in this game. Essentially, you're a manager of a Blood Bowl team, and you have to sort of choose your players and how you use them to win matchups and ultimately trophies and whatnot.
Well, we should say that Blood Bowl is basically American football, but set in the Warhammer Fantasy universe.
It is.
So it's all a bit mad.
Particularly violent. Cheating is encouraged.
Cheating is very, very much encouraged.
It's an integral part of the game, really. It's American football style thing. You've got 4 teams to start.
Well, it's 4 players. There's 4 players, but I think there's 6 teams to choose from.
All right, okay.
So you've got like the 3 goody teams and the 3 bad teams. Sort of
baddie teams.
The baddie teams.
All right.
So the goody teams are the wood elves, the humans, and the dwarfs.
Yeah.
And the baddie teams are the. I'm going to run with this.
Yeah, go with it.
The baddie teams are Chaos, Skaven, and Orcs.
Yeah. Skaven naturally fit the Blood Bowl theme somehow.
But we didn't
humanoid rats running about.
We didn't actually pick them. We had their 4 teams were Chaos, Orcs, Wood Elves, and Humans.
Yeah,
and the human player just moaned constantly all the way through.
That's as humans are wont to do in these situations. So you start off with your basic team, and you'll have to play the first couple of rounds with that team and kind of get used to some of the the strengths of that particular team, or whatever, what other sort of players you want to bring in.
Because they do have different strengths at different races.
They do, yeah. Like I was the elves there, and they're better at sort of passing the ball about. I think the Skaven were quite good at that as well, because I've played with them before in this. You've got various matchups put in front of you. There's like you've got the cup, but then you've got your sort of 4
Yeah,
or so.
so how it's laid out is that like you turn over some cards at the start of every turn, and there's like a bunch of matches, and there's like generally I think there's 3 cups throughout the season, and they're different every time you play it.
It's matches with violent names, basically.
But some weeks you won't actually have a cup to play for; it will just be the matches that are there.
It's just 5 weeks you play, isn't it?
I think so. No, but possibly. Aye, 5. Aye, 5. You're right.
Yeah.
Aye, so the matches are put in the middle of the table, and like basically all you're doing is playing cards to these matches, because it's a card game.
Yeah,
right. It's just a total card game.
It gets Blood Bowl stripped down into.
Aye, there's no miniatures or anything in this, but so it's just like the matches are put in the middle of the table, and all you're doing is you can play a player to one of those matches, and then somebody else can play a player at the other side of that match. And then you can keep playing players, and when you play your players, they have different abilities and skills they can use. So they might be able to grab the ball, or they might be able to completely crush somebody on the other side, like tackle them, or they might be able to cheat massively.
So the winner of the matchup's determined by the star ratings, which will be based on the players that you've put out in that matchup.
Aye.
Some of them will have higher ratings than others, and it's however many you have left at the end of the matchup, so you might lose some through getting tackled, getting injured, chucked out of the game.
Which is the fun part of the game.
Well, yeah, and the cheating as well, which comes in there.
The cheating's an interesting mechanic in this, because if you choose to cheat, you basically just get a cheat token, which is randomly picked, and it's just a little skull thing. You're not allowed to look at the other side. But basically at the end of the game, you flip all those cheat tokens over, and any players that have a cheat token that say that it's got a whistle on it, have been sent off, and they're actually, you can't count their star rating.
So
cheating's a bit of a risk, but sometimes it actually gives you extra points because the fans love it.
Yeah, it generally worked out pretty well for me. I think there was one matchup where I lost, but I did have a lot of cheat tokens on, and they all ended up being extra fans. I think.
I think you do get extra fans. Just through cheating, but some of them actually add to your star rating as well. So like it somehow cheating makes your player shitloads better than anybody else.
Yeah.
It's quite amusing. I mean, it's a pretty fun game, but you can't take it seriously.
No, and I think if you just enjoy the game, it can be quite fast paced as well. I think you could get through a season. And I mean,
it's a really abstract way. The way the matchups are done, like I said, when you're just really playing your players to whatever matchup you want, sort of thing, and then other players. So you might not even know who you're playing against when you play. When you start a matchup. Yeah,
you kind of just go into one, because with each of the matches, probably should say there's bonuses. There's rewards for either winning them, but there's also rewards that are
just for taking part,
for getting involved. So depending on what side of the card you go to, you'll get a certain thing. So you might go for you may kind of just go in for that reward and then hoping you get for the win, but someone else will come at you from the other side.
Yeah,
and the weird thing as well with like the cup, where everybody just gets involved
everybody
in
can get involved in that matchup. It's not just two people.
That's just madness.
Some of those cup matches were hilarious. Just like everybody just piling in and then like just smashing each other to pieces as much as they possibly could.
That last one in the game we did was quite interesting.
Yeah,
I basically just threw in some of my largest players and did something. Had I can't even remember what it was called. Basically, like a big roller thing. That could tackle 3 times and took a cheat token.
It was basically just a big tank or something, wasn't it?
It was very unlikely that it was going to stay in at the end, but I think it somehow managed to keep it.
It gets that many cheat tokens just by being in the game and trampling everybody.
That's not supposed to be.
The odds are it's going to get sent off, but it worked out for you in the end. But
I was quite happy with that.
I mean, it's a really fun game, and like I say, don't take it seriously.
No,
don't be like the guy that played the humans when we were playing. Don't be that guy.
I think that's maybe just still go the humans.
Don't sit there moaning that the humans are useless. You had your choice.
You had a chance. Humans could have been anything else.
Exactly. But there's some other stuff that's interesting in the game, like transfers and stuff like that. So like they're not really transfers, I'm just calling them that, but like you get your rewards at the end of every match, and like these can be like star players, and you might get a choice of some star players to put in your team, and then like there's like extra bonus players, but you get things like coaches and that kind of thing, and like little upgrades for your team, and that can just be, you might get extra fans at the end of the season for certain things, or you might be able to like let one of your players steal the ball when you play them, even if you normally couldn't. That kind of thing. So you get these little upgrades going through the game, and each team's got its own little upgrade deck, and there's also a main sort of shared upgrade deck as well. So there's like, as you go through the season, your team gets better and better and better. It's not just like you're playing with the same hand of cards all the time. And I quite like that. I mean, it's just a sort of natural, and it doesn't go on too long. It's just 5
the coach
rounds.
Things are quite good for sort of like getting an idea of how you want to play your team as well. Because I mean, a lot of the deck that I had, where sort of improved your passing or getting the ball sort of ability. So
yeah.
I mean, that was I found that kind of helped me get a grip on what I was supposed to be doing, really.
Yeah.
Because when you first start, you're just wading into any matchup you can, whatever you can from it.
Doesn't actually matter.
Yeah. I mean, I think
making enemies in the first round. That's the way to go.
It is. It's a bloodthirsty game, and it's one that you will just start like getting at people.
And that's why you shouldn't take it seriously.
Exactly.
I mean, I was the Orcs, and their basic power was just basically tackling everything. Like, they just hit everything that came near them. They were just like, we don't care. Like, the Chaos just cheated all the time. What was it? The Dwarves were like, I think they were pretty good at just holding on to the ball once they had it or something. So yeah, I mean, it's good. There's a good mixture of stuff in there. It's definitely got some replay value.
Definitely. I mean, it's like I say, it's the kind of game you can actually play a lot quicker than you'd think.
Aye. And you're pretty satisfied by it.
It's fairly simple to set up and everything. So
yeah. And the thing is, we should really say that the victory conditions of this game, it's not like the most number of games that you won or anything like that. This is this is a game about fans. It's
just the number of fans.
There's a number of fans that you've got at the end of the season, which you'll get through winning games and stuff, and possibly just through cheating and all that kind of thing. Yeah,
I don't think I won that many matchups particularly. But I managed to pick up a lot of fans, as I went on. And
that's what it's about.
Doing a bit of cheating.
Yep.
Just generally throwing your weight about.
Well, I mean, that's Blood Bowl Team Manager, the card game. It's good fun.
Yeah.
Don't take it seriously and you'll love it. How long do you think it took us? Was it about an hour and a half?
Something like that. Wasn't it?
I mean, it wasn't a long game at all.
No.
Right.
Rattle through it.
Well, we've rattled through that review as well, so here's arbitrary rating time.
Is it?
Aye.
I'll give it 5 rat heads on sticks.
Just 5.
Well, there's only ever 5.
Right, aye, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Scary rat skeletons.
So yeah, I'll go on with that.
Okay.
I don't know what 5 rat heads... I mean, there's no scale there. I don't know.
Well,
is that good? Is that bad?
They're all at different heights. So
I don't know. I don't care if it's good or bad. I'm just going along with it anyway.
It's kind of a line graph.
Right.
Yeah.
A line graph of rat heads.
Yeah. It's the financial year.
Well, right. Let's move on. Another board game. Another sports board game, Euan. This is
Soccer.
Time of Soccer by Elite Games and designed by Antonio Lipschitz Becerra, I think his name is. So this is I can't remember if it's... I think it's Spanish, this game.
Spanish game.
So I think this is made and produced by a Spanish company.
Yeah.
And they...
Hence
I have
the
to
odd
say,
title.
the odd title, Time of Soccer, and I have to say that the translation of the rules is hilarious.
Haven't really had a good look at it.
Absolutely hilarious at times. There are there are sentences in that rulebook that make no sense whatsoever. I have no idea what they were on about. I had to actually go onto Board Game Geek and try and find out the actual rules for this game because the rulebook is just so badly translated.
Top tip: if you're ever stuck with some poorly done, I mean, they don't necessarily need to be translated from a foreign language to be incomprehensible.
Oh God, no.
So yeah, Board Game Geek is a great resource for confirming issues with Fantasy Flight rulebooks.
Fantasy Flight notorious, yeah.
Yeah. I think they just try to say too much in one sentence.
That's it. They try not to be vague and in the same time make themselves really vague. Anyway, Time of Soccer. This is
another
a football management game.
Not
American football.
Not American
real
football.
Not hand egg.
Football, hand leg.
Hand egg.
Hand egg.
Aye.
All right.
Not American hand egg. This is actual foot and ball.
And you're managing a team again.
Yep. This is the ultimate spreadsheet manager, I think.
It really is, like you say. It's a numbers game. This one.
It's a numbers game. It's a funny old numbers game. That football.
It's quite I think it's quite unique in terms of board games. I mean, it definitely it has a feeling of the kind of like worker placement, sort of that style of game. Not necessarily the format, like, because obviously the way you. Well, I mean, the basic mechanic of the game for building up your team essentially is you've got your scout, your talent scout.
You've got a scout,
and you've got two boards there. So you've got one for all the sort of the matchup stuff, and then one where this talent scout's going about, and you'll have various things that you can go about and pick up. And now your talent scout's driving around in a wee car. Yeah,
and a really confusing city street grid thing.
Yeah, I don't know who.
So basically, you got a bunch of tiles that represent your players, and what else is there? Advertising contracts, friendly matches.
Friendly matches are good.
Coaches.
New managers, new scouts.
Yeah, new scouts. You can get the scout to go and basically get someone to replace him.
Social media.
Yeah, you got a social media guy. But basically, it's just a bunch of tiles, and you get laid out in this weird sort of, is it 4x4 city grid thing, which has a confusing road network on it, so you can only drive up these roads in certain directions.
Just a hellish one-way system that you have to get around.
And you have to be on certain sides of a tile in order to pick it up. But basically, most of the game is spent just driving around on this thing, and your scout can move a certain number of spaces depending on how good he is. And so you go around and you pick up players, and you can pick up all these advertising contracts, and they might give you money, or if you buy players, you're going to have to reduce your income a bit and pay a sort of lump sum for them and that kind of thing. But then you stick your players and your guys into your little board that you've got, which is your personal team. And this is where the numbers game comes in, and your brain explodes. Because
you have to do a lot of arithmetic in this game, actually, I realised.
I mean, when I think about it, it's like, Football Manager, the video game, or the Championship Manager series, the old one.
Yeah.
It's just basically like, that's all just a massive spreadsheet. That's really all that is. That's just being run, like, with numbers just all playing off against each other. And that's what this game is.
Yeah.
This is just numbers playing off against each other with dice rolls, granted. There's a random element.
There's a high element of interactivity when you've got cardboard in front of you.
But I mean, you can play your players in certain positions, so you can pick up guys that might only play in certain positions. Weirdly, in this game, you get a lot of goalkeepers that play outfield. It's like he's a goalkeeper and a striker. Yeah, strange stuff.
It's odd that someone would be dual skilled in that way.
Yeah.
Goalkeepers tend to be a very separate breed.
Aye. I mean, it was only really I think Peter Schmeichel was about the only guy I can remember that was a goalkeeper that could actually play up front.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to the game. So when you stick your players into these places, depending on your manager that you've got is your main manager, because you can have up to 3 of them, I think, decides your formation.
Yeah.
So wherever you've got your guys on your little grid, that determines how much defensive points you get and how much offensive points you get. And
which you'll be adding up frequently.
You'll be adding them up constantly, basically. I mean, like if you put players in certain places, you've got this little layout thing that has got your spaces for all your players, and there's little lines linking up all the spaces and stuff, and your players have got little symbols on them and stuff like that, and they're supposed to represent things like teamwork and passing and crossing and shooting and all that kind of thing. And if you match the symbols up with other players or symbols that are on your board, you get bonuses for it. But because you're constantly shifting your team about, you're buying new players, you might change your formation because you want more defensive points for the next game that you're playing. You're constantly just adding stuff up. And in fact, I think Dave, when we were playing it, so our mate Dave, was sitting there, and I'm pretty sure every second of that game he was counting. Just counting constantly.
He was constantly
counting.
He was getting a wee bit frazzled with it at the end.
Stop worrying about it.
I think he actually didn't make a vital positional swap at the end because he just couldn't be bothered doing any more adding.
I mean, it's quite interesting that way, though, because, like I say, because you can change your manager.
Yeah.
And, so just changing what manager you have changes your formation, and it doesn't actually change the layout of your players. You don't have to move your players around. It just means that the players that are in certain positions will add to, say if it's an attacking position normally, they might add to the defending instead. And that was quite interesting. There was a couple of games where I switched my manager so that I got more defensive points. I think when I was playing you, I did that. Because your attack was ridiculous.
Yeah, I kind of just...
It was off the scale.
I went for a bold experiment in this game to try and see how high I could get my striking power. to the detriment of my defensive abilities.
I didn't win you the cup, mate, because I smashed you in that cup final.
Well, part of the problem with this game is it does. There is. I mean, I don't really see any other way you do it, but so much comes down to the roll of the dice in this.
Yeah, it does. But I mean, it's an interesting system they use for that, though, because it's basically like you add up your points for, say, attack.
Yeah.
But the dice rolls, you only get successes on dice rolls with a 5 or a 6.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah.
That's right.
And you roll a certain number of dice, but depending on how high, say, your attacking level is, when you're attacking, all you do is you roll a bunch of dice and then you consult where your attacking level is. Yeah. And then that tells you there.
How many
if you got, say, you got 3 successes on the dice, it tells you how many shots on goal you get for 3 successes. So it's not going to be 3 shots on goal, usually. It's like if your attack is really high up, it's like 8.
Yeah.
8
I was
or 9
getting,
shots
I think
on goal.
3 successes, I was at 11 shots on goal.
Yeah. And then that's why you so when I was playing you, I was like, right, well, I need to put my defence score really high if he's going to be doing that, because I knew that your defence score was really low, but you should have completely focused on attack. Whereas mine was kind of equal when I played against you, so I thought, as long as I can defend against you, I've got a really good chance of actually winning this game, and that's how it worked out. Because, when you roll your defensive dice, that's how many shots you save, basically. And it's the same chart, it's the same little thing that you've got. So it's pretty really mathy type game. Lots of numbers going on. The game's split into 10 rounds, I think, or it's 11. There's a pre-season round.
You've got your pre-season.
And then you basically play 10 league games, and there's a cup going on as well, which you play as the season goes through, and it's randomly drawn, as most cups are. And I thought that was quite fun. I quite like the cup thing, actually.
That is a really
random draw thing.
I mean, the whole thing is it is quite a good simulation of a league season, basically. And the frustration with that random element is quite cool, because there is a realism to that.
There is.
You can a team can be as good as you like on paper, but they might not perform on the day.
Well, that's it, Euan.
That's
what happened to you.
Yeah, they just bottled it, basically.
Your team was just a bunch of drunks and
a bunch of bottlers,
drunks
basically.
and shaggers. I think just
they're all like, we're pure mad strikers with our skills and that, and then they're just out boozing every night.
That's it. The George Best team, George Best 11. But it was quite a fun game, actually. It took, I think, when we played it took a lot longer than it should have. I think we just spent too much time just sitting adding up and
thinking
too much about what was going on.
Going to be doing a lot of analysing.
And it's armchair analysis.
Yeah, I would probably have difficulty. I think it took us a long, because you've had this game for a while.
We have,
and it's
so difficult to get people to play.
It's not one that your typical, I would say, your board game geek's going to enjoy particularly. I think maybe
no.
The theme maybe doesn't fit, and it is quite. I think it is quite unique. But you kind of see the elements of other games that have kind of influenced the mechanics, but it's completely.
I think you have to be the kind of guy that would sit and put a 12-hour shift in Football Manager. Video game, in order to enjoy this board game.
There's not a lot of crossover between those audiences, I don't think. The board game and the Champ Manager junkies, basically.
Well, I think I'm one of them, though.
Well, yeah,
I've managed to avoid playing Football Manager for the past couple of seasons for the sole reason that it took up so much of my time.
Well, that's what it does.
It's just there's other things I could be doing rather than trying to in vain get Hibs to win the Premier League. It's just not happening.
I still need to. We need to find someone with a copy of FIFA, because I've been trying to challenge somebody.
I know someone that's got one.
Well, I just want someone to try Hibs against Santa Cruz, the team I went to see in Brazil, because I was just watching them thinking, you know what, I reckon Hibs could have this team.
But the thing is that somebody would shoot the referee or something. Let's face it.
Some absolutely flagrant cheating would happen,
Jason Cummings.
and it would be accepted as part of the game, because that's just how it works in Brazil. Rolling about for the entire second half with clutching at your arm in the most fake way possible. That's absolutely fine. I had a few minutes extra time, but they'll not make any difference.
Well, before that tangent, we were talking about Time of Soccer.
Yes.
And,
it was Time of Soccer.
I think we've summed up that game pretty well there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of little things to kind of get your head around, and it looks a lot more complicated than it is.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Spreadsheety games can look like, because
it looks like a nightmare when you first look at it. Everything's all connecting up to each other, and you're having to count everything up. But you do get used to it.
Yeah, it's very simple, and you've got basically, and it splits quite nicely into these two sections. You've got your scouting, improving section, and the actual playing of the matches. That's your two kind of
things. That's your.
I didn't have a word there.
Oh, you were really struggling for that word. I could feel you like fishing in the back of your mind there.
Yeah, rummaging around.
When in doubt, just say things.
Rummaging around to see what I could find. Yeah. So that's good.
That's good. That's good.
That's good. I like this.
This is some high quality.
I give it 10 footballs.
You're giving it 10 footballs out of 10 footballs.
Yeah.
I think, aye. Well, I'll give it 8 footballs plus 2 deflated footballs, I think.
Alright.
Out of an amount of footballs.
My actual 10 footballs is out of 11 footballs, because obviously the dice thing does my head in.
What kind of footballs are they?
They're the old kind of like
brown
leather ones. Like the,
they're like the pigskin ones. Aye, good. That's what I like to hear.
Get kicked about by men with big sideburns.
Smoking fags.
Hungover for the night before.
That's it.
Jumpers for gulpers.
Right. Well, I think that's I think that's enough board game chat. That was a very sporty board game section.
It is. I hope we didn't alienate anyone with that.
Nah, I mean, if this is the first episode you've listened to, and chances are it's not, because nobody listens. Well, a few people do. Hey. We've got some weird things going on. There's somebody in Malaysia that keeps listening to us, and I don't know who it is.
Fair enough. It's good of them to listen, you know.
But hello, whoever a Malaysian listener is.
Hi, Malaysian listener. Write into us and tell us if you can just if you have any ability to parse what we are on about.
Yeah, if you do, then please let us know.
Yeah.
firstplayertoken@gmail.com. Send us an email, Malaysian person.
It's nice to be international and whatnot.
It is. We're very welcoming on this podcast.
Yeah. I like to think so.
Aye. Right. Well, great. We'll have a quick break. And then when we come back, we've got a couple of video games to chat about. And, we'll see you in a bit. Well, we're back, so it's time for video game chat, Euan.
Excellent. Let's hear about them.
You've been playing a video game.
I've
you've been obsessively playing one.
Well, I've fairly beasted through a few scenarios on it.
Aye, but you've played a game that we've both played at some point. I've also played it, but I was in the past. But first up, we're going to talk about something else, I think.
All right, good of you.
That was a weird intro there. But this is Punch Club. Have you heard about Punch Club?
I've heard about punches. I've heard about clubs.
Right. Well, it's clearly a bit of a piss take, a fight club. Right. But it's got a lot of like weird references in it to like various sort of 80s and 90s like TV shows and films and stuff. So there's basically there's a whole load of Rocky stuff going on in this, including your trainer's called Mick, and it's just this old man that looks like Mick out of the Rocky films, and there is a punch.
Rocky boy.
There is a fight club in the game.
Yeah.
You do meet what's the character in Fight Club called again? The guy Brad Pitt plays.
Oh, Tyler
Yeah,
Durden.
you meet Tyler Durden in this game, and in your garage in your house there's an A-Team van and all this sort of stuff. There's just loads of references going on here. But Punch Club's basically like it's almost like a management simulator type thing. This is almost like one of these games that you would play on your phone. It's kind of strange, so it feels like it should be a flash game or something.
What, there's
Maybe
like time for stuff takes time for stuff to happen.
No, it's not that. It's like you've got like a bunch of stats that go up as you train and stuff like that. So basically, you join this like gym thing, and then like you work your way up through the ranks of just fighting people. But you've got like 3 stats. You've got strength, and you've got agility, and you've got stamina. I think they're called. And you can train these things in the gym, but like every day that goes past in the game, your stats reduce slightly kind of like real life sort of thing, you know, your stats, like you don't train your strength up in real life and then you stay at that strength for the rest of your days without training sort of thing. It gradually reduces. And that's what kind of makes it feel like one of these kind of phone games for me, and it just feels like you're just doing this repetitive task sort of thing where you're just building things up and then it gradually reduces and you build it up some more and that kind of thing. But you're doing that, and then, but one of the sort of interesting things of the game, the thing that's actually getting me playing it is when you do your fights, you could actually pick some skills. So you start the game with like a kick and I think it's a dodge. I think that's the only two skills you've got. So you can only kick and dodge.
You can't use your hands.
You can't use your hands at the start of the game, but every time you fight, you get some like skill points that you can unlock, and there's a skill tree thing.
Okay.
And there's actually 4 different ones, but you can only use the basic one at the beginning of the game.
All right.
And then when you get to a certain point in the basic one, you can unlock the other skill trees and then actually specialise in something. So you can unlock punches, and you know there's different moves. They'll do different things. So like your normal punch will take a certain amount of your energy. So you've both got you've got 100 energy in every fight, sort of thing. And each thing that you do will take some of that energy off.
Right.
So some of your stronger attacks might take a hell of a lot more energy off, but they're more likely to do more damage and that kind of thing. So you've got to kind of like in every round of the fight, you can switch your skills up. So you can change your skills every round. This like change your strategy. So like in some of the fights I've been doing, I've unlocked some things. I've been going down this route of like trying to sap my opponent's stamina, basically. But doing that is using a move that like uses up a lot of my own sort of stamina stuff.
So you've got to try and have more.
So like I'll just do this low kick thing, which basically cripples their knees. It's a shin kick, I think, actually. I think it's officially called a shin kick, right, so you can just like batter the shin kick. But I've upgraded it to a knee kick. So it just kind of like you just keep smashing their shins, but then I'll take that skill off sometimes in between rounds and then put in a skill that lets me rest a bit more, sort of thing, so I can build my own stamina back up, sort of thing. So you can be really tactical while you're in these fights, sort of thing. You don't just like...
Do you control the fight?
You don't control the fight yourself.
You're given the...
You tell your boxer what your fighter what he's supposed to do,
right?
And then the sort of AI will just use these things at random, sort of thing, as the fight goes on. So you've got to sort of like, this is what I mean. It's like a management thing, really, rather than you're not actually involved in the fight yourself as such. You're just kind of picking what your fighter's doing.
What? So is it just an interface that you deal with of all the kind of management, or is there like is it like what's graphic wise?
Well, it's got that sort of like 16-bit graphic style.
All right,
for the
actual fights,
and same with the music and that kind of thing. It's all that sort of look to it. All you're doing is just picking your skills, and then you can just watch the fight. You watch it, watch the first round as they're just standing, swinging punches and kicks at each other, sort of thing. And you've got a health bar. It's like hit points, so you can see how much hit points you're taking off.
Okay.
But I mean, your stats affect how good you are. So if you've got high agility, you're more likely to hit people, that kind of thing. But you know, if you've got high strength, you're more likely to do more damage. That's like all these things just affect each other. And stamina is actually part of your what they call armor or something, but I think they call it armor in this game, which is kind of weird. But it's just actually like, you know, how much you can reduce. So what I'm doing is I'm concentrating on strength and stamina pretty much only. I'm ignoring agility. I don't care if I miss a lot, as long as when I hit it fucking hurts. Like, that's basically what I'm doing.
Swinging wildly.
Yeah. I mean,
just blind effort.
And this is a game that when it first came out, and I'm pretty sure it was this game, the guys that made the game say that they would release the game early if Twitch could complete it. So the streaming thing.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure what that means. I don't know if it was like that Twitch does Pokemon thing. Did you ever hear about that?
No.
Basically, somebody had set up one of the original Pokemon Game Boy games so that people in Twitch chat could control it by saying up, down, left, right, A and B and that kind of thing. And it was a complete fucking nightmare because obviously trolls went on there and just kept them like spamming up or down or just whatever. And eventually, like after several weeks, they managed to complete the game. So I don't know if this is what they did with this Punch Club. I'd have to look into that. But and apparently Twitch did complete the game, and so the developers released it early.
Okay.
Like a month early or something like that. Just says, oh, fine, well, you did it, so there you go.
They admitted that they were sitting on it in the first place.
Aye. And Twitch has gone a bit crazy for this. This has been quite a popular game for streaming altogether. Right. And actually, I've been doing it as well lately. Okay. I've kind of missed the wave, the craze part of it. I think everybody's kind of done with it
game
now.
That you can get on the
but I like to jump in after everybody else and just be like, oh yeah, remember this game?
Well, you might have new things to say about it, you know.
Well, that's it.
Now that the hype's passed and people are passing around the same old opinions, you can come in with a fresh perspective.
Well, that's it. I'm not taking it too seriously either, you know.
And get called a noob.
Aye. I'm just all about the shin kicks.
Aye.
And on my Twitch, on my streaming thing, you'll hear me going quite. I'm quite.
Going on about shin kicks.
Yeah, I'm well up for the shin kicks. I'll just have to say. I mean, if I ever get into a fight in real life anytime soon, I'm definitely going to go for the shin kick. But I think it's a valid tactic.
It's an effective one. I mean, there's nothing worse than getting even raked in the shins. Isn't very nice.
It's only boots you in the shins. It's just annoying, isn't it?
Aye. It'll make you think twice.
Right, so
you've been enjoying.
I've been enjoying Punch Club. I've been enjoying streaming it as well.
Look out for Chris's Twitch. His Twitchy stream.
Yeah, I really need to update people a bit more on that, because I realised I put something up on Facebook, but I put it up about 10 minutes before I'd actually started streaming the game, and I was like, the chances
you're not like Limmy with a webcam. You can't.
Yeah, I know. I kind of people aren't sitting waiting for me to turn up.
You can get there, man. You can get there.
So, I'll try and give people a bit more warning. I'm probably not going to be streaming anything for the next week or so because I'm going to be away again. But, so Punch Clubs, it's pretty fun. I mean, just check it. I don't think it's that expensive. I think it cost me about £7 or something, £8 on Steam. So
a Steamy.
I think it's a PC only thing.
Yeah.
In fact, I'll just check that. It is Microsoft Windows OS X, iOS and Android. So you can get it.
Fast research.
Phone. That was I had the page open. I just forgot about it. And yes, it was a Twitch Plays Pokemon style event.
Right, so everybody was just getting in on it.
Aye.
I bet that'll be going well.
But that's Punch Club, and I would give it 15 shin kicks out of 18 dodges, I think.
Nice.
So that's quite a few shin kicks.
Yeah. That sounds like a reasonable game.
Aye.
Sounds reasonable.
It is pretty reasonable. Yeah. I don't know if it would have any real replay value other than maybe just checking out the other skills, but at the moment I'm still in the bottom.
Start one character. And
I'm second place in the bottom league of the Fight Club, so we'll see how it goes.
Give yourself up a league.
That's Punch Club.
Cool.
And now I've already done your introduction to this game. Right. I don't know why I did that. I'll be honest with you.
I'm baffled by it, to be honest.
I mean, we just talked about.
Well, pretend you never did it, and I'll just go in and say that I've been playing a bit of. Now, what's it even called? This War of Mine. Specifically, This War of Mine, the little ones. Yeah. I didn't really encounter many of the little ones.
No, did you not?
I didn't play any scenarios that had any children.
Right.
I mean, there's some came to the door, but mostly.
But you just ignored them.
Well, I tried to help
that's
them.
The kind of guy
Generally, I didn't have the thing that they were after. I mean, This War of Mine is basically it's putting you in the shoes of basically a civilian in a war zone. It's clearly meant to be sort of Yugoslavia.
I think it is. It's based on if I remember correctly, is it the Siege of Sarajevo?
Right.
In fact, I can look that up.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds certainly fits the bill.
Yeah, it's inspired by the Siege of Sarajevo during the Bosnian War.
Yeah. So it's a survival game basically.
Yeah.
Your whatever characters you start with, and they've got a whole variety of them that they've created for the game. They use them in different combinations throughout different scenarios that you can do, or you can set up your own scenarios. Although I do quite like one aspect of the sort of the pre-made scenarios is you don't know how long they're going to last.
Yeah.
If you make your own, you can set it for a number of days. But these ones, they tend to, you don't know when it's going to end, so you kind of just you're trying to get all your provisions together. I mean, you need to feed your people every day. They need to sleep every day. There's various other things. Some of them smoke. Some of them drink coffee.
Yeah.
So they need those things or they go a wee bit crazy.
You've got to like shore up your base and stuff like that as well, because you do get raided, if I remember correctly.
I mean,
that really annoyed me when I played it.
Well, we did play one scenario, and I'll kind of explain the setup for anyone who's not played it. You've got the daytime part of it and the nighttime part. So the daytime, you're in your house.
Yeah.
At the very start of it, there'll be a lot of like salvage and stuff you can find there, so you can kind of get started on that. Mm-hmm. And then at night, you can send one of your family or kind of your little group, survivors. You can send them out scavenging to different locations, and the map there will be randomised. There's various locations that can turn up. They can also, the locations can be different, like the way that whatever's going on at them can be different. So like there was a supermarket in the first scenario we played. There was just other scavengers there, and they were fine with you as long as you didn't cause any trouble with them. You could take, but there was less stuff for you to take.
Yeah.
The second time we played it through the supermarket, it said in the description, it's under military control, but you go there and there's just like one soldier, and he's clearly trying to do something untoward to some woman scavenger that's kicking him out.
Right, yeah.
So we just murdered the soldier, and actually that was all good, and it was just the one soldier kicking him out, and just kept looting the supermarket. But you need to go to get these, your food, keep all your people fed, and
it's a constant thing in this game, isn't it?
For building things, because you do need a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
and it takes a long time to get some of it, so you have to really think and prioritise what you're going to build first.
Yeah.
So obviously you need beds for everybody to sleep in. You need, like you say, shore up the defences and everything, put an alarm on the door so you don't get burgled all the time. And you need guns, actually, and guns and bullets, and often body armour, so your people can defend at night, because you will get raided quite often, and there's often like outbreaks of crime where you're just getting raided constantly and it's more violent. We didn't have things like, you can get body armour and helmets as well, which you can fix up and give to your folk, and that sort of stops you from getting injured quite a lot, because a lot of the time we were coming back from your scavenging at night, and the next day it says you've been raided. A lot of the time it was just it takes this many bullets, taken this many bullets to fend off the invaders, but sometimes they'd be like they'd have taken a wound or something like that, generally if you didn't have all of your defences in place. So there's quite a lot to be thinking about.
There is. I mean, I remember, it's been a while since I played it. I haven't played the Little Ones version of it. It was just the original one that I played, and I remember it being like, it was good fun. There was definitely a lot of things going on in there that I really enjoyed.
It could be pretty harrowing.
It could be really frustrating.
Frustrating.
Pretty frustrating. It was a pretty frustrating game at times, but I think that's all part of the thing. I think a lot of the thing that goes on in it is the personalities of the people that are your survivors. You can sometimes they get depressed and stuff like that if you do certain things.
Yeah,
like if you send them out to raid an old person's house, they come back depressed that they stole off these defenceless people and that kind of thing. And a lot of it's really dealing with those, like, their personalities.
Yeah, some people get depressed easier than others. There's one character we had, just a lawyer or something like that.
Oh, he wasn't a heartless man, was he?
No, it was a woman. What was her name? Ellie or something like that. But she, in fact, I've had her in 2 scenarios, and she's always been my murderer, my killer. Just get her out there. She just doesn't seem to be morally fazed by anything. Right. She's just like, they talked about raiding some. Yeah, we went to there's like an old couple who are just living quite normally, and you can go and just basically rob them. They run away from you, and you can take all their stuff.
Yeah. And,
she was not bothered at all by that. Not one bit. Most people I said, even like when they went back and there was nobody there, and they took from sort of certain deposits, which we'd say it would come up saying private property, they would get sad. But on the first raid where this guy is following around begging her not to take all of his wife's medicine, she was just like, nah, having that, not bothered at all. And we used her in our first scenario as well, and we sent her out to murder a load of people, which she did quite successfully, didn't take any wounds. She did all the killing in every scenario I've ever done.
Is she your best one, Euan? She's your best character?
You wouldn't expect it, but she was.
She was your best one.
Well, after Pawel,
Yeah,
there's a Pawel in this game.
There's always a Pawel.
He was the fast runner and the guy you wanted out on your scavenging things, but he just randomly got shot one time. And we were like, well, I'm not having this. So we sent this lawyer in, with a knife and a shotgun, and she sorted things. She took care of business, basically.
Did she come back and say that's dealt with?
That's done.
That's dealt with.
And she got all the stuff off his corpse as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And it was mystery meat for tea that night.
Aye. I mean, we started one scenario where you've only got one survivor. And it's a nightmare because you have to take all of your possessions with you. You have to use up as much as you can each day and then take all of your possessions out with you because it will just get stolen.
Oh, yeah.
There's nobody guarding.
Aye.
There's no... Even if you
that
put
sounds
up
insane.
your boards and everything like that. I mean, eventually someone did come along.
Yeah.
And we got him, to help out and everything like that. But, I mean, for a good 2 weeks, I think, it took before anybody turned up. And every night we were taking out a bunch of stuff and and you could only so much you could bring back. So we were really struggling. Basically just living day to day, just getting enough food, getting him to sleep when he got back, and that was about it. And it was pretty tough. But again, that was a scenario that we eventually kind of got to a point. And probably my one complaint with the game is it can, and I guess it's down to the random nature of it, you can sometimes find yourself getting to a point where you have actually got a lot of what you need, and you're just kind of living from one day to the next.
Yeah.
And that can get a little bit boring. Sometimes other things, sometimes things can happen there. There can be you suddenly find yourself out of something and you need to go scavenge and you can start having problems. But generally, you can get to that point and it becomes kind of just
I think that was
waiting the game out. Basically.
I think that was the point that I got to as well with it. And then I think I started because I got so bored, I just started doing stupid things like sending my guys out at night to somewhere that were clearly going to get shot at. And then just making the game difficult for myself just because it got a bit boring.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that's not really a common thing we should say, though. It's not like...
No,
I think if you get to that point, you've pretty much won.
Yeah, I think that is it. And you do kind of have to take it slow and steady. That is the one thing I've learned, is the main is just don't go rushing into murdering and robbing when you've got other stuff you can, just take it night by night and just take what you need. I think is and only go murdering folk or robbing folk if
for fun.
If you need
it.
Well, one of the things is as well is that there's certain folk you can kill and it actually makes them content because they're like, oh, that guy was an arse, that was a bad person or something like that. They deserved it, so which is a bit of a weird double, but it's war. It's a different, it's
Bosnia,
the necessity of Bosnian life, or Serbian life.
Right, well, that's this war of mine then.
Yeah.
Hang on, let me get the details up for that. So that's 11-Bit Studios and Deep Silver.
I don't know if that's still available on PlayStation Network. It has been, but I mean, you can download it.
It's available on Microsoft Windows, OS X, Linux, iOS, Android, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One.
It's cross-platform.
Yeah, the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One version only came out a few weeks ago, actually.
Yeah.
The end of January 2016. But the original PC game came out in 2014.
Oh,
so it's a couple of years old
now.
Been around a while. Well, at least just over a year old now, I think. And I think I played it when it first came out. So I've not played the one with the little ones, but I mean the little ones, it really just adds kids into it.
Yeah, essentially. I mean,
pretty
I've
much
seen
useless.
the sort of stuff that you have to. You basically, you can't take them. You can't send them out scavenging.
You can't give them a shotgun.
No, you basically there's toys that have been added as like a scavengeable item.
Yeah,
but broken toys or whatever, and you can sort of bring them back because it's like a lot of times you can bring back books, things like that, which you can end up having to burn for fuel. But generally, if you bring back books for people, it makes them happy. And I think with kids, it works the same way with these toys. You can get them a load of toys. You've got to keep them fed, get them to sleep and everything like that. So they're basically just like another mouth to feed and a bit of a burden on you.
Yeah.
Which puts extra pressure on you to...
I mean, I think it just ramps up the difficulty a bit, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, it definitely
gives
does.
you something else to worry about.
I mean, I don't know, the last scenario I played, and I haven't played it since, was just pretty harrowing. I mean, I didn't sort of let it play out to its obvious conclusion that everybody was going to die, but it was...
Sometimes you just have to turn the game off at that point.
You just have to say, well, this is done now. We have had it here. Our goose is cooked. Everybody's severely wounded. And in fact, we left the two of the folks severely wounded in beds over the night to try and recover. Unless you've got a bandage, they won't. But we couldn't do anything else with them.
Yeah.
We came back the next day. They'd had a fight.
Of course they did.
They'd kicked the fuck out of each other, and they were now both lethally wounded.
Brilliant.
It was a savage one. I know.
Cabin fever, eh?
Middle of the winter.
Great fun.
Yeah.
Right. Well, aye. So that was this War of Mine.
Yeah.
The little ones.
We'll include that as well. That is available.
Yeah.
That's what it's called on the PlayStation. I think you just get the whole package.
Do you want to rate this, Euan?
I'll give it 4 dead Pawels out of 5.
Oh, that's good. The best Pawels are dead Pawels.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah.
But it's Pavle.
Well,
Pavle.
Actually, that's a bit harsh. Embarrassed Pawels, I think, is what I prefer.
Well, yeah. Everybody likes an embarrassed Pawel. It's just interesting to see.
Well, we're only going to talk about a couple of games, but we've actually
got a bit of time left.
We've managed to rattle through those games pretty quickly. Yeah. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. But
I don't know.
Maybe are we getting better, Euan? Probably not.
No, I think we're just finding less to say. We're just losing interest quicker.
That's it. Just get this over and done with. Yeah, so I'm going to talk about a game that quite a lot of people have been talking about lately on various podcasts and websites and all sorts of things, which is Firewatch. Which is essentially a walking simulator, if that's what you want to call it. I mean, it's a very short game. I got this on Steam. I don't know. Hang on, let me just get the details up for Firewatch. So, yeah, it's by Campos Santos, the developer, published by Panic, and it is on Windows OS X, Linux, and PlayStation 4. It just came out the beginning of this month, so February the 9th, 2016 it came out. So it's a pretty new game. And like I say, quite a lot of people have been talking about it recently. And I think mainly the thing about this game is that it's another really sort of gorgeous game. It's a first-person thing.
Right.
Where basically you're playing the role of a guy who finds himself, and there's going to be a wee bit of spoiler here, but basically he finds himself as a fire...
Spoiler noise.
Oh, I could throw in the spoiler noise.
Probably should. There
we go. So basically, yeah, you find yourself in, I think it's Yellowstone National Park.
Yeah.
I'll again look that one up. It's Yellowstone National Park.
Yellowstone.
In the late 80s, which is a time when there were some massive fires in Yellowstone.
All right.
Some massive fires went off. And I think this game is kind of made up a story about how these fires might have started. Oh. But basically you're a fire warden who finds himself just in this tower in Yellowstone National Park, completely isolated from humanity and civilizations, that kind of thing, like miles away from any sort of civilization or any other sort of people. And all you have with your contact with the outside world is this woman called Delilah, who is basically your boss,
right? Who
lives in another tower, which you can see off in the distance, sort of off up on a hill, away off on the horizon, sort of thing.
Right.
And the whole game is really just about, you're walking about doing whatever Delilah asks you to do. You might just be going and picking up supplies, or going to check out, some teenagers that have lit a fire down by a camp, down by a lake. Sorry. And you're just like walking about and speaking to Delilah and like having a look around this world and talking about all the things that you see around you, sort of thing. So you might just see like a big tree with claw marks on it, and you can report that to Delilah, and then you'll have some chat with Delilah about bears and and there's a lot of personality going on there.
Okay.
Like this guy that you are is called Henry. He's had a bit of a tough life up to this point, which is why he's sort of moved away, like got himself away from his real life and isolated himself, sort of thing. So I'm not going to spoiler that part too much, but and obviously Delilah, there's this massive hint that everybody that becomes this, like a ranger, fire ranger of this type, has got something wrong with them. Something's happened in their life that's made them want to go and do this job, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And you find like notes from other rangers that have been there previously, who are clearly, they're writing to each other, and they're all clearly got some sort of issue going on and stuff like that. And, maybe some of them are mentally unhinged.
Yeah. Okay.
You get some big hints about that. But there's a whole there is like some story going on here. This isn't just a game where you're just walking about talking to somebody. There is stuff happens.
Yeah.
And again, I don't want to spoil that for you if you want to go and check it do so. But it's quite interesting, I think. And like I say, the whole thing is really just your relationship with Delilah that drives the whole game.
Yeah.
And what goes on between the two of you. I mean, I quite enjoyed it. I played it with my girlfriend. She sat there and she didn't actually play it, but she sat and watched me play through the whole thing. It only took about 3.5 hours, I think, to play the entire game. And there aren't... I thought there was going to be multiple endings. I looked it up. It turns out there isn't multiple endings. There's just the one ending. Okay. But apparently there is a secret ending, but it's a bit of a silly secret ending. I'm not going to ruin that for you, but I mean, it's something that you can do as the very last thing you do in the game. It's a choice that you can make at that point that isn't obvious, if you see what I mean.
Okay.
Basically, it's once all the fires kick up and you have to escape from the place. There's something you can do at that point that can change the end of the game.
Okay.
But I think it's more an implied ending, if you see what I mean. Like, it fades to black rather than giving you an ending. So it's kind of weird.
Sounds odd. I mean,
it is kind of weird. So if you want to go and play through the game, try and discover this ending, then go for it. I know what happens.
Right.
Even
tell Chris what you found.
Yeah, let me know what you thought of it. I mean, it was an interesting game. It's a very pretty game, very, very pretty game.
Yeah.
It's got this slightly cartoony style to it. It's almost like realistic cartoony, if you see what I mean. It's kind of, I don't know how to describe that. It's
slightly kind of like cell shaded though. Like that
that kind of style of thing. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not very clued up on my cartoons and shit. So I wouldn't really know how to describe that, but it's very good looking game, and some of the dialogue can be quite amusing at times and stuff like that. And because you get to choose how Henry reacts to what Delilah's saying, it can be quite interesting, pretty unique to your own experience, sort of thing. So my girlfriend sat and watched me play through it. She quite enjoyed it, just as a story sort of thing, just something to pass the time. Because it was pretty quick, she didn't get bored or anything like that. There was always something to do. One of the things that you can do in this game is that you find a disposable camera, because it's the 80s. It's one of those little cardboard ones, remember the ones we used to get when we were pissed and teenagers. It's those. And you can take pictures as you go through the game, and then at the very end of the game, when the credits come up, it shows you all the pictures you took, which is quite a nice touch.
Is it quite sort of like from your tower or whatever? Do you go off? Is it sort of open world around there?
There's a sort of decent size that you can explore. It's not big, right? But it's big enough for the length of the game. It's big enough.
That's sort of like the one thing I'm kind of like interested in terms of how long it takes to play the game. I mean, if there's a lot of roaming about. There's a lot of roaming about,
but you do get sent to pretty much every part of the map that you can possibly go to, sort of thing. Like, there's little sort of natural paths that you follow whenever you're going somewhere, and you've got a map and you've got a compass and that kind of thing. So you're just kind of navigating your own way, sort of thing. So there's a little bit of sort of, like, because you are doing this on your own steam, you do have to bring your map up and your compass and look at which direction you're going. But you follow these natural paths and you do see pretty much all of the game that there is to see. But there's enough of it to keep you amused. There's enough interesting things going on, like stuff that people have thrown away that you can find and things like that are just lying about. And the story's pretty good in that. So it's a decent enough game. I'm not going to play through it ever again, probably.
Yeah.
I think I've done that game. The story's done. It's like watching a film, and then you just kind of go like,
all right,
that's fine. I've seen that film now. Okay. I'm not going to buy a DVD or anything. That's just fine.
There's a lot more of these type of games, especially with like on Steam and things like that, where you kind of like a bit of a market for indie games, where it's just purely like a narrative experience.
And that's what it is.
Something kind of slightly there's a big, but it's trying to tell you a story. So.
There's a big market just now for these kind of things, and like the Telltale game series games that are going around. They've done like Game of Thrones ones and Minecraft ones. The Minecraft story mode is pretty much a Telltale thing. I think that's Telltale that does that. There are various other ones as well, and they're really just story games where you're really just making your own little choices, but it's a story that is telling. The game's about the narrative rather than the actual you going around doing things. Firewatch. I mean, I would give it. It's a different game, so it's kind of difficult to actually give it a rating compared to other things. But if you like your narrative experience, sort of thing, if you just like a little story, with some sort of really good dialogue, by the way, the dialogue's really natural. It's not like sort of stilted or whatever, you know. It didn't feel like it was two people that were just recording lines. It feels really natural when these people
Kiefer
are
Sutherland in a hotel room with a silver tray full of donuts.
Aye, that kind of thing.
Just phoning it, like literally phoning his lines in.
Aye. So I check that out if it sounds like your kind of thing, because you'll probably enjoy it.
Yeah.
Well, that brings the podcast to an end, so that's about an hour long. We've managed to...
Nice. Tidy wee hour there.
Aye.
We've covered a lot.
We have covered a lot. And it's good to have you fully back, Euan.
It's nice to be back doing a
Pawel
full episode.
was pissing me off, by the
way. Was it? Was you really getting on your wick?
Oh, I couldn't get a bloody word in.
Aye, well. It was nice. I thought I enjoyed the dynamic of having three of us there.
I know, it was good. It was
interesting.
Good.
Hopefully we'll get a chance to do that again.
Yeah. Probably a lot
more. Having some kind of Pawel desk.
Pawel desk?
Yeah, you can have a Pawel desk if you want. So
we're not getting him a desk, are we?
No, he can bring his own desk.
Right.
Or at least a briefcase or
something.
Don't,
man, because he will bring his own desk. I'm not having that.
Oh, he's carrying it up the stairs.
I can imagine him coming in with a briefcase, which is actually a fold-up desk.
Again, well, if he can carry it up the stairs and he can assemble it himself and disassemble it and carry it back down the stairs without us even being inconvenienced at all,
or woken up,
then fair enough, you know. Yeah, he can just come in and do that one night,
right when we're asleep, and then piss off again.
Don't wake us up. Don't make a face or anything like that.
Right. Well, if you've got any comments or questions for us, you can send them to firstplayertoken@gmail.com. Yeah. Any sort of statement that you'd like to make to us.
Or just on the Facebook.
On the Facebook page as well, aye. I should really save some of the questions we got asked on the Facebook page for the actual podcast episode instead of us just instantly answering
talking about them. Yeah. Well, that might be an idea, actually. We might give us something to pad out the running time.
So that's the Large and Unnecessary First Player Token podcast on Facebook.
Yep.
We are on Twitter, it's at First Player Token, but it's at 1ST Player Token.
Once
Player Token. We've done the email address, and my Twitch username is Unnecessary Chris. That's one word, Unnecessary Chris, if you want to watch my Twitch streaming of, at the moment, Punch Club. Anything else that I've missed, Euan?
Well, I think that's all the lines of communication covered.
Yeah. And we're on SoundCloud. So you're probably this will
be coming from SoundCloud probably if you listen to it.
And we're on iTunes.
Yeah.
So you can find us on iTunes if you want to subscribe to us using your iTunes subscribing thing.
Give us a 1-star review.
Yeah, make sure you get those 1-star reviews on people, because we're only going to read out 1-star reviews on the show. We're not going to read out any 5-star reviews or anything.
And 2 to 4 just.
Yeah, you're just taking a piss if you give it 2 to 4. Aye.
Yeah.
Why are you even bothering?
Oh yeah, you don't get counted by market research surveys.
Yeah.
They only take the ones in the 5s. They're not interested in the in-betweens. So it's a good tip if you just don't want your opinion to count in these things, which is probably what
3-star review.
What a clever person should really want.
Who does a 3-star review?
A 3-star review. Someone who just did. Someone
an
who
average
just
rating for an average review.
Who only cared enough to write the review.
Yeah.
And it then lost interest at that point.
The review cuts
how many stars. You think that would be the first thing you'd get out of the way, because it's easy. Because you just randomly choose a number between 1 and 5.
Right, so basically what we're saying is, if you want your review read out in the show, it has to be 1 star.
Yeah.
That's going to backfire on us one of these days.
I don't know. I don't think it can possibly backfire, because if between the number of reviews we have now and the number of reviews we could possibly get, then any publicity is good publicity.
That's true, aye. Right, well, that's probably a good note to end the show on then.
Yeah.
This has been your 1-star
podcast tips.
Yeah, this has been your 1-star Large and Unnecessary First Player Token podcast. I have been Chris.
I've been Euan.
And Pawel isn't fucking here.
Ha!
Good night.